Here's my top 10 tips that I think will really help you as you sow seeds this year to grow your own plants, reduce the cost of plants, and also have a lot of fun growing your own plants, growing your own food. Here's my top 10 tips. Stick around until the end of the video, guys, because there's going to be a bonus tip at the end that I think will really enhance your seed growing. I really hope so. Tip number 1, it's a bit of a boring one, and that is to be organised. After you've watched this video, get a pen and paper, or if you're not as old-fashioned as me, get a spreadsheet on your computer. Draw a list of varieties that you would like to grow this year, varieties that make you smile or you're going to use a lot, even flowers that you want to grow, and then arrange them according to when you can plant them outside. That's really important because you want to phase your growing and spread it through the year. Everybody wants to get growing and get sowing in January, February, March, but the growing season is 12 months long. So try and spread your growing throughout the entire growing season, if at all possible. Tip number 2 is to store your seeds properly. Now, a lot of seeds will have a very long lifespan, but their germination rate will actually diminish as they get older. And the germination rate will actually decrease if you don't look after them properly. How do you look after them properly? Well, the vast majority of seed will enjoy cool, dark, dry conditions. So, tip number 2 is don't leave your seeds out here in the polytunnel or in a greenhouse or a damp shed. Look after them properly. An old biscuit tin is my choice. And after you've followed tip number 1 and organised your list, you can put the seeds away in your old biscuit tin in perfect conditions and store them until you're ready to use them. Tip number 3 is to choose growing containers well and also clean them before you use them. You can use so many different containers to sow seeds. I mean, you can even reuse old ready meal packaging. You can use seed trays, old plug trays like this, that you'll find at many garden centres. I quite like to use seed trays like this, that you can put in a drip tray or a water tray so it doesn't make a mess all over your windowsill. However, I should emphasise for tip number 3, you need to make sure you clean these before using them. And if you're going to reuse them, which I really hope you do, clean it before you do. Tip 4 is think about your growing medium. Growing medium, that's just a horticultural term for the soil that you're going to plant your seeds in. I really would suggest that if you can do so, use a specialist seedling compost. That's just going to be a bit finer, and that's going to mean that your seeds are in what we call intimate contact with the growing medium, and that's going to increase your chances of the seeds germinating. Using that fine, beautiful seedling compost really will increase your success, I promise. Tip number 5, this won't apply to every single seed out there, but many seeds will benefit from being covered. It will increase the germination rate. You can actually cover the seeds with a material called vermiculite, or you can cover it with a propagator. And all a propagator is a clear plastic or glass that will just keep the moisture on the seeds, increase the temperature a little bit, and it will increase your germination rate. Tip number 6, label your seeds. I know this sounds obvious, but it really isn't, and it's something I forget to do. It takes a lot of the guessing out of the process. I mean, I suppose it makes it less exciting, but remember to label the seeds. It will help you to organise and work out what's going on with each variety. Most people don't need kind of 30 of a single variety. So you might want to sow 5 of one variety, 5 of another, and labelling is really important. It's really important to remember that the growing process is the beautiful tango that occurs between heat, light and water. And you need to balance all of those things. So tip number 7 is get the temperature right. Read the seed packaging. It should give you some indication of what temperature the seeds will germinate at. Try and put the seeds in a warmer place if possible. I mean, if they don't need light until they germinate, then I like to put them in an airing cupboard or a room where you know there's going to be some regular heat. I know it's difficult early on in the year, but read the packaging, consider the heat. Tip number 8, light. Once you've got the temperature correct and the seeds start to germinate, you're going to need to concentrate on the light. Now, this is really difficult in the early season, but put the seeds in the lightest place possible. The light is going to give the seeds the energy. If you put the seeds in the lightest place possible, they won't get leggy. They won't start straining up towards the light. They won't get leggy. They won't get spindly. They'll be strong. And here's a good horticultural term for you. The plants will be nice and compact and strong. So put them in the lightest place possible. I would absolutely suggest using grow lights if that's an option. You can get grow lights very, very cheaply now on Amazon and other places. Really cheap, really easy. And if you go for the LED grow lights, they don't use too much energy either. Word of warning, some of the grow lights have different colours and it might make your house look like a nightclub. Tip number 9, consider how much water the seedlings are going to need. Don't water them too much. Make sure that you don't saturate the seeds, and I'm a big believer in watering from below if possible. The seed trays that I showed you earlier with the drip tray underneath are perfect for that, because you can put some water in the drip tray, allow it to soak up, and you will prevent or reduce the risk of rot happening, which is really, really important. You really don't want the seed trays to get overly damp, especially if you've covered them or it's indoors with poor ventilation. You'll see that's a recipe for disaster. You'll see lots of pests are going to emerge, and that's not good for the plants. So tip number 9, consider the watering and water them only when needed. Finally, tip number 10, read the packet. Google for instructions specific to the variety that you're actually growing. All the general tips and principles that I've described in this video can be applied quite universally, but certain varieties will have certain specific requirements. And that's the joy of growing. That's why we love gardening, isn't it? That every plant is different and provides a slightly different challenge. So read the packaging or Google it, because you're going to see so many specific tips for that variety that's really going to help you in your growing adventures. I nearly forgot. Here's that bonus tip that I promised you. This might seem like a long way off. I'm recording this video in January here in the UK. But when your seeds start to emerge and you pot them on into larger containers on the windowsill, eventually some of these plants might go outside. When they do go outside, if at all possible, try to harden them off. So in other words, that means don't take them from the warm indoors, the perfect conditions that you've grown them in, and then just stick them outside, because the plants won't like that. They will go into shock from the cold, just as I would actually if I got thrown outside at that time of year. I would suggest that you do a process called hardening off, and that involves taking the plants out during the warmer daylight hours and gently acclimatizing, bringing them back in, maybe putting them under a cold frame or in a polytunnel like this if you've got one. Otherwise, just start to gradually harden them off and keep an eye on the last frost date for your location. Before that last frost date, try to harden the plants off gradually. That's my bonus tip for you. Guys, did you find this video useful? I really hope that you did, because I'm so excited to start sowing seeds. If you've watched this far, drop me a comment below. Let me know where in the world you're watching this video and what you're sowing this year. Tag me, let me know what you're sowing. We're gonna have a great year, guys. I can't wait to start growing with you. Until next time, see you later.